we gather here together this day, this beautiful, sun-drenched Alaskan day, we recognize that each and every one of us are expressions of the Most High. Each and every one of us have been made by that infinite creative force which has created heaven and earth and everything in both. And so we know that as each and every one of us is a creation of the Most High, that we are that very harmony that is the divine. It is within each and every one of us. And as we sit back this day, we recognize the divine in one another. Regardless of any other conditions, we know that we are of the divine. We give thanks now. We step back and we bless this day. We bless this service, for it is all the activity of the divine. All praises be unto the one, and so it is. Amen. So it is. Let's see, today, this is the season of peace, and during the season of peace, we light one candle for a different faith tradition, and we recite their prayer for peace on that day. Our candle lighter this morning is Loanne. Be careful, there's fire in the house.
I know, and I got it.
Okay, the Baha'i prayer for peace. Be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. Be fair in judgment and guarded in thy speech. Be a lamp unto those who walk in darkness and a home to the stranger. Be eyes to the blind and a guiding light unto the feet of the erring. Be a breath of life to the body of humankind and a dew to the soil of the human heart, a fruit upon the tree of humility. The other candle that we light is a healing candle of love. We invite you in the stillness of your own mind to bring to awareness the names of anyone you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and light. Now that our flames of peace and of love are lighted, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. Thank you, Lord. Our inspirational quote today is from Ernest Holmes out of his paper, A New Design for Living. The present moment can never provide us with more joy than we are able to embody. And that applies to everything. The present moment can never provide us with more prosperity and abundance than we are able to receive. The present moment can never provide us with more love than we're able to give. Once again, the present moment can never provide us with more joy than we are able to embody. Mind and spirit, and I choose to live in harmony. Thank you, choir. You know, if you need a pickup on a Sunday morning, I would invite you to stop by here before service and listen to the choir as they practice, they rehearse. Wow! It just brings such a sense of calm and peace. You know, Judy prays over every chair in this sanctuary every week. And between praying up the chairs and the choir rehearsing, we set a tone of love and peace, and I choose to live in harmony. Well, good morning. My name is Reverend Don. I am one of the ministers here at the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living, and I want to extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you, those of you who are here in the sanctuary today, as well as those of you online. Thank you for making us a part of your life and your Sunday. At this center, we have spiritual principles that we believe in, and we talk about those on Sundays, and we talk about them in classes, and we talk about our spiritual principles, and then we have spiritual practices, and these are ways that we can embrace and hold these principles through our practices. And one of the practices that we embrace is that of prayer. We absolutely believe in the efficacy, the effectiveness that is, of prayer. We know that it works. I get to see it every single week. Sometimes they're small steps, sometimes they're miracles. Cancer disappears. Long-lost relationship between a mother and a daughter. Hadn't spoken in 7 years. Asked for a prayer on a Sunday. Got a call on Tuesday, and on Monday, her daughter had called. This stuff really works. And so you can avail yourself to that by a host of different ways. And all my notes I left down there, but that's okay. I know most of them. If you're here in the sanctuary, you can fill out the prayer request that's in the back of the seat in front of you. And if you don't want to do that, we have prayer requests, and there's a box in the back. You just fill it out, put it in there, and I will retrieve it this afternoon and send it out to our practitioners who will pray on it all week. You can go online, cslalaska.org, cslalaska.org, and on there you'll see an opportunity to fill out a prayer request, and you can do that. Reverend Linda has some kind of, thing where she gets notified anytime a prayer shows up in there, and she sends it out to us. And we're on it for the whole week. If you're here, you can tap any one of the licensed practitioners on the shoulder and ask for an OM, a 1 moment miracle. It used to be 1 minute, but they never get done in a minute. So now it's a 1 moment miracle, but we invite you to do that. And I'm trying to see who all the practitioners are. We've got Bob, Cynthia George. Cindy is back holding the presence. We've got Judy. We've got Linda Steiner. And, our speaker this morning is Stevie, who is another practitioner. And we've got Robert and Ann next door with our children. So any of those people will be more than happy to sit with you and know the truth, see beyond appearances, and go to the absolute spiritual truth. Okay. Prayer, welcome and announcements. Okay, it's time for, do we have announcements? Tax time. Oh, no, we're not. Let's do the diet team. You can tell I've been a member of that for a few weeks now. Actually, it's a diet. It stands for Devise Innovative Activities Together. And this is the group that sets in motion the activities of the center. And I'd like to reference one we had yesterday. People got together and made vision boards. That is to say, they gave the mental equivalent of their desires. And they found them in magazines and stuff. Luann's had us, brought in enough magazines to, and Cynthia's been having this go on for all this time, so we had plenty of magazines. I don't know how many people were in there, but I heard them all afternoon. They were having way too much fun. This is a serious place.
Yes. We take our humor seriously.
That's right. Well spoken, Don. But my point is, these are the kinds of activities that come from our team, our planning, our diet team. We invite you to join our team. They're being done by Zoom for now. And if you would like to participate, give me a call. Our phone number 907-522-0940, and I will make sure that you get the Zoom link for that. Let's see, now, number 2 announcement.
That's all I got for slides.
Oh, that's all he's got. Well, it's tax time. Oh, this is good. Your donation statements, they went out on the 31st. If you don't have yours, pretty soon here, this says by January 10th, but I think they mean February 10th. Please call or email with your current address, and we'll get your statement to you, because it's always good to reduce your taxes as much as possible. And then the last reminder that we have, our Oneness Prayer and Meditation is the first and third Saturday of every month. 10 o'clock for silent meditation, 10:30 is a sacred reading, 11 is sacred discussion, and at 11:20 is an affirmative prayer. It's a Zoom meeting, and I believe we're meeting in person as well. Okay, so it's all Zoom for now. So, announcements. Welcome, everybody. Was there anything else? Because I could have forgotten something important. Oh, do we have anyone who's new here for the first time? Your first visit to us? Well, if we did, you could have gone back and got a guest packet from Judy, who, as you can see, busy every morning, praying over the chairs, practitioner, doing all the stuff that she does. So, I think that's it. It's time for more special music. Before we do, though, our speaker is Stevie today. She's got a gift, and I honor the fact that she shares it with us in the form of the spoken word. So, thank you, Stevie.
That was absolutely beautiful and pertinent. I feel like that was my whole speech. Between everything that you said and then the choir following up, I don't know that you need anything from me today, to be really honest. Really hit the nail on the head. The piano really got me centered from that piece too, so thank you, Aaron, for that. Love me or hate me. Today we are going to talk a little bit about economics and science. Ooh. That was a great reaction. Not what I was expecting. Not what you may get, necessarily from a Sunday speech, but I think it's important to speak in a language that works for all. And sometimes I'm in spaces, especially here, where I can be very woo-woo and very heart-centered, and it just resonates, and people get it, and they feel it. And then I'm in other spaces, sometimes corporate spaces, where, it's kind of funny because I'll be saying the same things, but I'll just put different words that work in place, and it will keep that receptivity. So I think that that's really important. So today I'm going to be tapping into a little bit of the science because, well, we are what? Science of mind? I think it's important that we kind of lean into that sometimes. And a little bit of economics. And when I say economics, Rev said twice it's tax season. I think that was a personal reminder to me, so I'll get on that later. But I've been thinking a lot lately about consumer power. I'm going to say that again, the word consumer power. We are constantly consuming. And I'm not just talking about McDonald's, Costco, food. We're consuming things through television. We're consuming information overload constantly. Whether you're listening to music on a regular basis like I do, or you're reading books, you're consuming. And there is a power between what you choose to consume and obviously the things that will consume you if you let them. And it kind of goes both ways the way I see it. So as we think about consumer power, I'm going to be really honest with you. I see a lot of products in this world right now being pushed heavily, and you don't even realize that that's what they're trying to sell you, but it's fear. It has become one of the silent things in this universe that is so loud at the same time, but you don't turn on the TV and think, am I going to buy fear today? But at the end of the day, that's what you consume when you allow yourself, when we allow yourself, when I allow myself to become consumed by the things around us. So as I go into a little bit of the science, I think about a couple of things when it comes to information and what I can present on this stage today. I believe when it pertains to knowledge or wisdom, sometimes we need a reminder, sometimes we just need a reason, and sometimes we need a realization, which taps really directly into what we believe here at the center, our power of prayer. One of the key facets is the realization step. In my opinion, without it, it's just a lot of worship, which is great. But if you don't realize it, how do you know it? How do you bring it to your own life? So maybe today you need a reminder. I'm not going to bring you groundbreaking information that you've never heard of before. I don't think that that's what's going to happen in this next 15 to 20 minutes that I have your ear. I do believe that maybe you've heard some of this before, and the reminder will be maybe words that work for you, and it will help you kind of realign with something that maybe you've slipped away from. Maybe it will be a reason. Maybe these are things you know in the bottom of your heart because you've been in this center, you've been in this practice, but you need a reason to believe it again. Maybe it's a realization. Maybe you're watching online. Maybe you're here and you're just at that point where it don't even feel like it makes sense anymore. And you need that realization again. Whatever it is, I hope I can give you one of those R's as we dive in. Now, the title of my talk today is Interstellar Innerception. It's a bit of a tongue twister. I dare you to say it 3 times back to back. Or say it once, yeah, Interstellar Innerception. I spelled Innerception like I did an album back in the day, which is I-N-N-E-R, and then Ception. Because one thing I want to highlight and hopefully give you that reason, that reminder, or that realization is we can continue to consume fear. But fear to me is a scapegoat. And I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm not saying that you will not experience it, but I feel like words that work, fear has just become a little bit of like an overcasted umbrella over everything. And I don't really think that we can get away with saying we're afraid instead of recognizing that maybe there's something deeper. And maybe we are not seeing that really that fear is an idea of separation, which is an illusion of separation. So when we start to think of consuming fear, really, if there was one power, one belief, one thought that if all of us in this world were to be on the same page about, it would dismantle capitalism in every way. And I'm not just talking economics. And that is that we are all connected. I truly believe that is the groundbreaking thing of our knowledge in this day and age, is that we are all connected. And as long as they can continue to feed us this idea that we are separate from one another, well, you see what can happen. We can just look around in the world and see what happens. So I am going to tap into the evidence behind that interstellar connection. And this is where the science comes in, because at the end of the day, I can talk about how in my heart center, I feel connected to each and every one of you here. And in many ways I do. And I do believe that. But we can feel very disconnected from people when they cut us off in traffic, when they talk about our mama, when they try to come for us. Yeah, that can make us feel very unconnected to one another when they have these deeply rooted beliefs that you feel aren't in the benefit of mankind as a whole. Yeah, that can feel very disconnecting. But when science shows that we are connected to our outer environment, not even just each other, because we're just replicas of a human being, right? We all come in different personalities, shapes, and sizes. But if we can recognize that the divine connection, the blueprint that we see in nature, in the solar systems, in animals and insects mirrors what we have personally, then can we not just deduce that we also share things in common, that we have that interconnectedness? So yeah, I've got a couple of key points today, and we're going to use some big fancy words, but I'm going to break it all down. The sacred infrastructure, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about energy transmutation, because I believe that this is a key thing that connects us to our outer world, where we can see the resemblance. Pre-designed destiny, or predestined design. I'll talk a little bit about that today. And then the forces that be. I'm not talking Star Wars, but the forces that be. Listen, I haven't even seen them, so I really cannot reference it. So yeah, as we start to get into it, let's start with the sacred infrastructure. Now, one thing that I can say is over the last couple years, I have really focused on learning more about the body. I am a fitness instructor now. I haven't always been, but taking my knowledge into this realm, I learned that there was so much that I already understood on a spiritual level that actually like made sense on a cellular level. And we hear this often, but for me it was like very, very eye-opening to see like, again, how the science will reinforce the things that my gut just kind of was like, yeah, this makes sense from my experience. So I want to look at plants and their ecosystem or their divine infrastructure and humans. And we'll start with just roots, central nervous system. If you don't know a lot about the central nervous system, it is basically our communication center. We can call it the hub of our existence. It is how we are able to function, breathe, think, have our senses between smell, sight, whatever it is. That is all going to tie back to the central nervous system. Again, we got a little science today. I did warn you. Science is coming in. Now, when you look at a plant, the hub for the plant is going to be the plant body itself, whether it's a flower or a tree, whatever that is. And for us, it's our brain. Now, the brain is going to communicate through the spinal cord, which is going to be the stem for a lot of plants. Now, through that spinal cord, we also have a lot of roots, which are our nerves and our nerve pathways. Now, maybe this makes sense to you. Maybe you've seen the drawings and you're kind of seeing like how it looks, and it looks a lot like a drawing of a plant. Now, when you look at the plant, the functionality is also very, very much the same. We have the pathway to the subsystem, which is going to be the stem branching network for us, our nerves, which we see exactly how that ties into the structure of the roots underneath the soil. I mean, and we talk a lot in this building about seed, soil, plant. It's for a reason. It is for a divine reason. Now, what does the central nervous system do for us? Well, maybe you'll notice a pattern here. It collects data. It allows us to go into an external portion of our world and recognize that maybe there's fear around, or see if there's hot around so we don't burn ourselves. Like all of this information that we're taking in, it's collecting data so it can create a output or a response. It starts as thought, it goes from there. Well, same with plants. Underneath the roots, they are detecting changes in the environment. Think about a sunflower and how when the sun comes out, it starts to open up or fold a certain way, and when the sun goes away, the plant starts to respond. So it's also collecting data from the outside environment. Now, again, my point being, how can we be that different? If we're doing what the plants are doing, the plants are doing what we're doing, how can we, me and you, no matter what you believe, be that different? Also, something I learned about plants as I was going into all my research was that they actually have a way of communicating to other plants in the environment. So if there's a plant that maybe has stronger roots, like a tree, and it can sense a storm coming or just changes, subtle changes in the environment, it will send out electromagnetic pulses through the soil to plants around it to say like, hey, something's changing that could affect us. And I think that how they communicate with each other in the ecosystem is very, very important to recognize. So yeah, we just see that there's an infrastructure that we share down beneath the surface that I can look at you and I don't see it, but I know that there's a central nervous system in there and I know it's doing something, just like it is in our outer world. Now, as I think about energy transmutation, my second point here, the transmuter, the conductor, it's water. Let's just talk about it, water. Now, this to me is one of the most direct examples of how we can look to our outer world and see how much it reflects the divine imprint or blueprint of our inner world. Now, what does water do? What does water not do? I think that's going to be the easier question to answer. But for us, it provides us with vital nutrients. It helps us regulate our microbiome so that we don't have bad bacteria take over. And if you're not drinking a lot of water, then that can happen easier than not. For humans, it tends to take up about 60% of our body, give or take, should be water. Obviously, that water shows up in different ways. It also transmutes electrical responses. So this is something that was also huge in the fitness world. If you are juiced up on caffeine, but you're not drinking enough water, well, that's your electromagnetic pulse. That's going to create the energy. So when you need that current in your own body, that is going to come from the electrical charge of water. We also know that it clearly helps us to transport waste. It purifies the body as well. And one of the most important things that, as I start to tie back to how water shows up in the planet, for us personally, it is thermoregulation, a fancy term that says if you're really hot, it helps cool you down. If your internals are really cold, it helps warm you up. Water is going to be one of the main things that does that. Now, I'm not going to get that political today, but let's talk about how water on this planet has also made a huge change when it comes to thermoregulation. When we think about things about how our climate has changed and water and how we respect water or how water is treated or how we honor water as a principle to life, I think that makes a huge difference. I mean, and we felt it. Here in Alaska, I mean, we have a record-breaking rain in this winter or lack of snow this winter. I mean, we've just seen how that water plays such a huge role when it comes to thermoregulation. As far as the planet, water takes up about 70% of our Earth. So again, we're seeing how we are mirroring our infrastructure, our design, on what's happening on this bigger level. Now, as I mentioned before going into all these details, this is nothing new. This information is not new. I'm not coming here to blow your mind with a stat or a fact that may be like, oh, I've never thought about that. But what I am hoping to do is turn your attention, allow you to consume something that is a little bit more affirming today, even if it is for a 20-minute segment of your day, to reaffirm this knowingness that there is a connection that is so much deeper, so much more truth backing than the fear that we have the choice to consume. I could actually use some water right now, but and if you're at home and you got water near you, this is your plug for the day to stay hydrated. Yeah, you got it near you in the audience, same thing. Water is life. We say that, we know it, we breathe it. Water really is life. And when I think about different oceans, and I read this quote and somebody told me before, and I was like, whoa, does that resonate? The dangers of still water are far higher than the danger of any moving water. If you get water trapped in a place where it has lost its current by any wind, you are gonna have bacteria growth overload. You're gonna have a lack of balance. Still water, stagnant still water, is way more dangerous than any rapids you will ever find, because it is not flowing that current, which is water. Water is the transmuter. It is the conductor. It is the thing that moves itself. So yeah, water, drink your water. So the next thing I want to talk about, as we're just going through these different elements, right, and we're thinking about how else do I see this divine blueprint? How else do I reclaim my consumer power and focus on the things that are connected? And maybe this shows up next time you are confronted with an opportunity and you're looking at something that maybe seems and feels and sounds so different than you. And you can just let everything fade but the water running through this person's body. If you can stop listening to what they're saying for a moment and see that beautiful water that you share, that they share, and just tap into that, maybe this is how it will show up for you later. Just finding a way to be present and to bring this into an applicable sense, right? Because that's really what it comes down to, is how do we apply this that we're consuming in a way that it will benefit us in the long run. So my third point is the predestined design, the destiny that is the inherent wisdom. It's kind of thinking like if our body is the hardware, then the software that we get to download it just coming into this planet. And I feel like it happens in nature so often that you will notice that humans, back as far as you can date, have looked to nature to mimic design for functionality, for optimization. This has happened in many examples, so of course I'm gonna give you some. I'll give you some examples. Ant colonies. Ants are pretty cool, just saying. Ants are pretty cool. They have done things that have allowed us to optimize our road systems. They have studied ants in a controlled space where they have created tunnels. And these tunnels are not just fancy or cool designs. These tunnels mathematically are the most efficient routes for travel. And we have actually, they've shown this in different studies in Japan, where they have created highway and railroad systems that mimic the same kind of tunneling patterns that ants have created, because they just intrinsically know, turn left here, navigate here, turn here. That is something that we've been able to study in nature and mimic in order to optimize our patterns. Still happening to this day. I think that's pretty crazy. They see where the food is, they need to go up to the soil, they're taking the shortest, most effective route every single time. They have no time to waste. And it's a day-to-day thing. So ants, that's a huge thing, and we've actually studied that and mimicked that. Another thing that stood out to me, and there's some awesome terms behind all of these, practical swarm. So this was like birds that flock together, or schools of fish. Now you think about how many of these birds can fly together at a time, or how many schools, like fish, are actually in that school. It could be up to the hundreds, maybe it's closer to 50, but you're looking at a mass amount of elephants, same thing, right? A mass amount of animals traveling to the same destination within the same tight group. How are they not constantly trampling each other? How are they not constantly running into each other? We can even go further. How do they know where to go? Like all these questions proposed, but there's clearly a software that they already have, if you want to put it in those terms, or a inherent wisdom that the divine plants into all life. And I truly do believe that. Now, I think that given this free will and autonomy, being humans, I think that it is maybe clouded, that innate wisdom. Overload of information, I think, has caused us to deter when it comes to that innate wisdom, but I believe we have it. Innately, we tend to know right from wrong, right? Like innately, and it gets gray. Don't get me wrong, it gets gray. But there are certain things that we just intrinsically are born with. And the things that maybe don't come as naturally to us, we are graced with nature that we can seek to find those patterns. And that's what we have been doing. I just don't even think a lot of people realize that a lot of the things that control just our day-to-day lives and the optimization of being able to just get up and go have actually been pulled from our outer world, and seeing how God has created the structure, the blueprint for us to mimic. Now, the last one that I thought was really, really interesting, I really couldn't talk about like the divine nature of insects or animals without bringing up bees. And I really couldn't. The bees, I had to save them for last because I feel like this is also going to be one of the most common ways that we can identify with another species that has really shown us the way. Actually, this just made me think about something else, so I'll have to bring that up too. Hopefully I don't forget. It's beavers. Leave it to beaver. Don't let me forget, because that was a great example. I just saw it on TikTok. Yeah, gotta plug TikTok. But to the bees. Now, bees, I feel like if you are a business owner, then you have studied bees even if you don't know that you've studied bees. They have optimized the group workforce. Not everybody does the same job, and not everybody's qualified with the same skills. Now, obviously, when you're in a business, you have some people that maybe oversee operations, and maybe people who deal strictly with like personnel or HR, and like you have people that based on their skill sets are going to do different things. Well, you see the same thing happen when it comes to bees, and not just the queen bee, right? We all know that she got a special job. She's doing something different. But the other worker bees still divide up a division of responsibility, and how they are able to do that through their communication that obviously we can't fully translate, but we know it's happening. And they're making these divine structures that we have mimicked. The shapes of the cones, the hexagon, everything that they have done, we have mimicked and brought into our world. So if the bees can do it and the bees are feeling it intrinsically, then what knowledge do we have so deeply rooted within our design that maybe we just need to peel back some layers, always focusing on acquiring knowledge, but maybe sometimes we need to unlearn what we have been acquiring in order to relearn what is already innately within us. I think the bees are a good lesson for that. Now, which actually just came to mind, the beaver. I was scrolling on TikTok yesterday, and it said, well, the beavers beat us to it. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be funny. So I watched the video. And apparently there was somewhere in the States where there was a necessity for dams to be built. Another great example, humans have built dams to help regulate water systems, kind of tying in a couple of my points today. And we put them in specific places based on the need that we see. Well, you know, the way things work nowadays, you got to get contracts, you got to get approval. You can't just go building dams without making sure that like the city ordinances are going to be okay with it. So apparently wherever this was happening, where people were saying that there's a need for a dam here, like the water needs to flow differently, it was going through contracts, and basically it'd been over a year of trying to get approval to build these dams. Well, apparently they went back to the site and they saw that the beavers had already done it. And somebody, like literally, this had just recently happened, and the beavers, when they went back and studied these dams, they were so much better than any of the blueprints that the humans had come up with for the same exact area. This is a true story. I hope you go look it up, because I just read this on TikTok, and I was like, ain't no way, because we're trying to do what they do. But they do it naturally, because that's how they survive, and clearly they recognized a need, and they just worked cooperatively, worked together. It wasn't one beaver, and they showed a little clip of beavers just pulling the sticks over, stick by stick. Stick by stick. And sometimes it's that small of a change, right? One stick at a time, one change at a time, one shift of your thought at a time, and till damn. Okay, sorry. Let me check my time. Until damn, something just happens. I think that's pretty magnificent. Sorry, that flowed out well. So leave it to the bees, leave it to the beavers. The last thing that I want to say, and I'm just going to keep this short because it speaks so much for itself, the forces, the invisible forces that show up in our external world, that show up internally as well. Gravity. I think as I really look to the interstellar portion of my talk, and I realize like how much gravity plays such a crucial role in the placement of our stars and the placement of our planets and the orbit and the rotational forces around us, that is so crucial. But that's on a macro level. On a micro level, our organs wouldn't sit where they sit in our body if it wasn't for how gravity plays a part. Like, we have certain things like our heart that needs to be a little bit higher than the rest of the stuff going on down here. And that is gonna take place because of how gravity affects our body. So yeah, we get to see it in our planets not crashing on a regular basis, but we also get to see it by our, lungs not crashing on a regular basis. So there's just something about how gravity plays a role. And when we think about all these different elements of the divine, this imprint that is showing up, I think that the undeniable truths are the ones I want to land today. Not the things that I have an opinion on that I think look like what are happening inside. Like I can say like sometimes it feels really sunny inside for me, and sometimes I feel like everything inside of me is raining. That is a feeling that I can relate to what I see outside in this world. That is a feeling. What I'm pointing towards are facts. These are scientific facts when it comes to how nature shows up. And when we can eliminate some of the noise by leaning into truths, how better way to overcome fear? Because I'll be honest with you, I have faced many fears in my lifetime, but did they ever really go away? Not necessarily. I still had butterflies jumping through my stomach before I came up to the stage today. This is my first time, it won't be my last time, but we just face it by showing up. But I feel like fear, and this takes me into my takeaway today, fear is something that is a dead end and that it is so subjective. It is a dance that you will forever find yourself in, where you realize that, in my opinion, the lack of connection that we see in this planet, the lack of connection that we see in our communities, it is because people are succumbing to fear, but I think it's deeper than that. It is more so because we are succumbing to this idea that we are not connected. And so don't let it just be, I'm afraid, and that's that, because then you can just get trapped in this dead end. Let it be, I need to reconnect. Let it be, I maybe have an opportunity to realize these truths that are actually around us, to breathe in that of which is undeniable. And I think that there is just something beautiful about that. So the evidence is the answer. It's all around us. We can get boggled down with all the things that are showing up. And I will never be the person to say, it's not really happening. Yeah, there's some dark things happening. There's some low vibrational activity taking place. I do believe it is still a part of this grand illusion. And I do believe that the truth will set us free. And if I can spend 1 moment a day, 3 moments a day spreading that truth, then that's exactly what I will do. So tap into the evidence because it's all around you. You need a reminder? Go find a body of water. You need a little bit of a realization? Take some time and eliminate everything else and just get real with yourself. Strip yourself of everything else and get into nature and start to feel that realness. I don't believe it's a gap in courage. I think it's a gap in understanding. And you know what, for me, you can only build so much like strength or bravery, right? It's like, it's hard to quantify bravery, but you can quantify knowledge. You can build on knowledge. You can add to your understanding. It's a never ending add. So instead of trying to focus on being less afraid, let's focus on understanding more. It just feels a lot more practical. And my final point is, if you can embrace it externally, you can improve it internally. Taking those opportunities, the things that we seek to nurture within ourselves, how do we nurture that within our environment, our ecosystem, our planet? Because I'll be real with you, I think the better we take care of ourselves, the more we respect the planet, and the more we take care of our planet, the more we respect and learn about ourselves. And if that's where we start, then that's where we start. So with that being said, yeah, I think that there are illusions all around us. I think that we have the choice to consume and take our buyer power, our consumer power back, to subscribe to the magazines of life and not death, to knowingness and trust and love and not fear. But it is a choice. And with that being said, I'm going to give you the choice to join me and just reaffirming some truths, and I'm going to ask all the colleagues in the room to just join me in knowing this truth as well. The truth that there is a mighty presence. It is the living tree. It is the bees, the birds that flock together. It is the schools of fish. It is this divine knowledge, this wisdom that is so innate. It is so intricate that it is undeniable in its essence. Well, here's the thing, that truth of harmony, the divine patterns of optimization, the blueprint for success, that is the truth of me. That is the truth of every individual on this planet, in this room, in every space available. Because we are extensions of that divine. We are made in the likeness of. And so as we just take this moment to maybe realize, reaffirm, and just readjust mentally, let us peel away those layers that are tainted, that feel like they've just been put on over time, and strip down to that core of that 60% water that is God. It is the life essence of our being. If you don't see this for yourself, I see it for you. I know it for you because it just is. And so as we recognize our own pattern of excellence, Allow us to just realize that that means that all of the things, the problems, they all have solutions. All of the wars, they all have an opportunity to fade and love can take over. All of the issues that feel like socially are dragging us, they already have a divine blueprint for order. That harmony is already available to us. It isn't something that we have to go out and build from scratch. We just have to say yes. And knowing that the divine is moving through and as us, we can feel stronger in our essence to challenge the things that don't make sense, challenge the things that are around us, and feed and subscribe to that which is our truth, that reiterates our magnificence, that realigns us with one another from our deep-seated core. And so for the things that are showing up in this world that aren't aligned with that truth, for the things that are showing up in their grand illusion, we just take them for what they are, but we don't give them any more weight. We allow them to dismantle themselves as we focus on love, connection, breath, the things that we share. And so as I speak this for myself, I speak this for the world, that we may find that peace in this grand season of peace, that we may give thanks for the moments when we are confronted with something that looks different, but we know deep down is still the same. It is the I am, and I know. And therefore I can give thanks. I can release with a sense of ease, and I can be free in saying yes. And so it is.
So it is. God is. God is indeed everywhere within each and every one of us, even the Kansas City Chiefs.
And the Eagles. Taylor Swift!
Puppies!
This is the time of the service where we are afforded the opportunity to participate in one of the aforementioned spiritual practices, and that being participating in the law of circulation. I'd like to recognize some of the people that are online with us today. Ed Bauman, Colleen, Chris Bittner, Ninetta, Michelle Kuntz, and Chris Bauman, and I know there are others because there are some that never miss but never appear in the chat room or whatever. So thank you once again to the choir. You guys are awesome. Aaron, you have a lot to do with it. Okay, let's get serious because it's a kickoff. Our affirmation, am I forgetting something? I don't know.
You're good.
Okay. Our affirmation, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Smiling at us. Here comes gift of tomorrow. Oh, how we love you. Oh, how we love you.
Robert, you can tell us what the kids learned today, or maybe the kids will.
Well, after practicing the stillness of a frog, we got very active and built some valentines. And we have a special message for you.
God is all there is.
We're sharing our love with our Valentines, right?
Tonight is Valentine's Day, so we ain't no that. So it's today's Valentine's Day, because we're doing it. It's a family and friends and so many of teachers.
Yeah. Family and friends.
Indeed, we do remember this day. We will never forget His magnificent talk on the birds and bees. And other stuff, too. The presence of the divine. And so we just give thanks. Now we can step forth into this week with the confidence of knowing that that infinite presence that is within each and every one of us is for us and is supporting us in every way if we only listen to it. All praises be unto the one, and so it is.